There's been a lot of conversation about Wuthering Waves being in a super dead patch in 2.7 since the end of the main story of Chapter 2. But now with the recent release of the 2.8 livestream and the new content that's coming, is that going to be enough to help this game get through this content drought before 3.0? Well, I want to talk about the recent livestream, what went on in it, and what I think are some big takeaways. Was it really enough to save Wuthering Waves? Overall, I think Kuro Games does a pretty good job whenever it comes to their live streams. I think the presentations are generally to the point, they kind of talk about the core information that people care about, and there's not a lot of additional fluff or weird mini games that some other developers like to put on. So overall, this live stream in terms of its presentation was good. I think it had good insight into some of the new characters, some new events, a new region, some stuff to explore, without necessarily giving too much away for their 3.0. I think one thing that is incredibly obvious about this livestream is, yes, this is an interlude patch, but just because it's an interlude patch doesn't mean that there's nothing to do. I was so fearing that we were going to have a similar event that like what happened with Zhang Liao and his festival event that happened previously, and that it was going to be super boring and suck, and the only thing that was cool about that patch was that we got Zhang Liao for free. I was so worried that this was going to be the same thing again, but I'm happy to report that that is not the case. Is this going to be a massive kickoff like 3.0 and get people extremely fired up about the game? I also don't think so, but I think those who've been playing the game, sticking with the game, and been very faithful to it are definitely going to enjoy it. So I want to talk a little bit about the characters that are coming, the new region we're going to be exploring, the story beats that we've been able to get an idea of, some of the events and the quality of life, and see our overall conclusion of how is this live stream and how is 2.8 going to be. So I think the first thing to kick off with is, yes, we have two new resonators that are coming into the game with Chisa and Wuthering, and for the first time since freaking, I don't know, Lumi, we are getting a new 4-star character with Wuthering, which is going to be a nice addition to the game as a new Electro Rectifier, as well as Chisa, who is going to be a new Havoc Broadblade unit. Now look, I'm not a guide maker, so I'm not going to go through the full breakdowns of is this character going to be good? Is this character going to be meta? I don't know. I'm not going to make that ruling on it. All I know is I'm probably going to be pulling on this character. I really like Chisa's overall design, and I really like her weapon with the giant scissors. Feels very reminiscent of a couple different characters in anime, all kind of blended into one. And so I'm actually incredibly excited about playing this character, a new Havoc character to be added into the roster. I think the word on the street is she's going to be an enabler of the Havoc Bane status effect, so I think she's going to be more of a character that's going to come to fruition later on, but I'm overall a really big fan of her design and playstyle. I like that her scissor blade can turn into this like chainsaw. Overall, a great looking character. However, she's a 5-star premium character, so not everybody's going to get this character. So whenever it comes to characters as well, when we're talking about them, I'm not going to consider this totally like new content, like something for any player to do, because the only way you get to enjoy Chisa as a character is if you happen to pull on her banner, and that's either if you spend money or if you happen to have been saving before pulling her. So I'm not going to give this like a ton of value in terms of, wow, look at this, like Kuro's offering such brand new content. It's a new character, very cool. I'll be slightly more generous on Wuthering because of the fact that she is a 4-star character, so the probability that you're going to get her is much higher than getting Chisa, just by getting her by nature of pulling on the banner and her coming, you know, a chance of every like 1 in every 10 pulls that you're going to get her to drop. I think it's very likely that everybody's going to get at least a single copy if you happen to do some pulling. I actually am very much looking forward to Wuthering as an Electro character, a resonator that's hopefully going to help actually like boost some of the other Electro units in the game. Augusta's busted, but there's not really a good Electro enabler in the game that's actually of the Electro element. The closest thing we have was Yinlin, and she's kind of notoriously one of the worst supporters in the game entirely. She really took a big hit in the overall like 1.0 roster, and so it'd be nice to see if Wuthering can do that. Overall, I really like Wuthering's kind of like overall animations and playstyle. You can tell they're very reminiscent of Jianshin as they come from kind of like a similar order and school of like training, like the Taoist monk area of the game. I can't remember what it was called. So I really like that their work, like you can see the designs and similarities within their animations and combat patterns. So great addition to the game. Now with Chisa being the only new premium character being added into the game, there's going to be no other 5-star characters being added. So if you've been faithfully playing the game, you don't need to pull on any of the reruns that are coming, but if you are somebody who does happen to be missing a few different characters, there's some 2 great characters coming. Peeb is a great Spectro DPS unit. She also does enable Spectrofrazzle a little bit, so is a character that would be great to pull on. But I think the other characters that people are going to be looking forward to in this patch actually are with Frolova. Frolova actually turned out to be kind of like a universal support. Can slot into so many different teams, and so the fact that she's getting a rerun I think is a big thing for a lot of people to kind of get her slotted into their roster. So overall, if you're one of those people who wasn't planning on pulling on Chisa, gonna be honest, couldn't be me, I'm definitely pulling on Chisa, you can still pull on Frolova and get another Havoc sub DPS unit, or even build her into a main DPS unit to be added into the game. It's a great addition, great stuff. So I want to talk a little bit about the kind of new region that we're going to be getting to explore and the story that has been announced along with it. Overall, I think both look really good. Honami is a new urban style area that's being added that kind of exists within a Sonoro, so is not kind of a permanent area added to the world map, but is going to be a new area to explore. I am so excited for that. I'm going to be honest, with some of the recent updates with Renacida, there wasn't really a ton to explore, and I love the exploration in this game. I love going along and doing that as part of the storyline, and so when there wasn't really much more to do in Renacida in the previous patches, I was extremely disappointed, and I thought it was going to be the same thing in this patch as well. I didn't think we were going to have a lot of new regions to explore, new areas to explore going into 2.8. I thought they were going to be putting that all on hold for 3.0. So the fact that we're actually getting something more to explore is actually a huge bonus. And I'm really liking the shakeup in terms of the world building and design with going into this more skyscraper-like area. I'm hoping this is kind of like the tip of the hat to where Laharoy is going to be going in terms of the rest of the kind of world building and exploration. But as for what it is in this patch, I think it's going to be great and give you a lot of gameplay to sink your teeth into. I think the overall story seems interesting as well. I have a suspicion that it's going to be fairly self-contained in terms of its overall storytelling. I think it's primarily just going to serve as a vehicle for us to get to know Chisa, who comes from Laharoy, if memory serves. And I don't know if it's going to have a massive impact on the grander narrative, but I think it will still be fun regardless in kind of this segue patch. We got 2 main story patches going to be added. It's Chapter 2, Act 12, and then a segue patch as well. So it's very much telling us, yes, this is the transition into 3.0. One of the things that I was really happy to see in terms of the overall previews, we got to see some of the other Black Shores characters get brought back in. We see Camellia for a little bit, we see Shorekeeper for a little bit, and one of my biggest gripes that I talked about in some of my previous videos is that the characters aren't sticking with the game long term. We're not having more time to build with them as we can progress through the game like some of the other games are able to do and build. So the fact that they're bringing some of those Black Shore characters back, keeping them engaged in the story, is a huge positive for me. Is it basically just going to be in this 2.8 patch and then we're going to go into 3.0 and leave them again? Probably, but I'll take it whatever little wins I can get for the time being. Now, a big flaw with 2.7 is there was basically no events to go along with the main story, which left everybody sitting around twiddling their thumbs and doing nothing if you had been keeping up with the game. I'm excited to see that in 2.8. There actually is multiple events that they're going to be introducing that are actually gameplay. Is there some of the regular filler that's just an excuse to give you some more rewards? Yes, but there's a couple events that genuinely look exciting and to enjoy and to explore into. So for example, the Stranger Things Honami event, which I've got on screen right now. This is going to be an event that seems similar to the Banner's Fall event that they had in Renacida before, or Septimont specifically before, where it kind of focuses on the exploration. You're doing some investigation. It's a mix of kind of like intermechanics of unlocking characters to come do the combat with you, as well as getting a reason to explore the region more. I love when they intermingle exploration and combat events kind of like into one for these new areas, and it's got some additional rewards beyond just simply Astrite. You got some decor, other world building that they're introducing along with it, and it seems like a fairly involved event, and it is. This is a permanent event that is being added into the game. So I'm happy to see that they're going more into highlighting the parts of the game that people actually like and enjoy, as opposed to a simple filler event like the Vampire Survivors event of 2.7. On top of that, they have an additional combat event with the Tactical Simulacra coming back, which is going to let you fight bosses that are going to have some various effects that are going to be applied. They've added in a new hologram with the False Sovereign, multiple combat-related items that are coming into the game that if you were missing that in the past couple patches, they finally have something for you. Of course, they kind of have some of the extra, like, let's be frank here, bullcrap filler stuff too, with another Lalo event, with the photo event that you go around and just take a picture of a couple of the new areas in the game. It's just an excuse to give you some more Astrite, in my opinion. So I'll take it, but I'm not gonna, write home about it. There is the 7-day login event, which is a nice little addition as well too. I kind of wish there were some more premium pulls in there, but pulls are pulls at the end of the day. But I would have liked them to be all premium. That's just me. That's where I'm sitting on that one. But overall, the events seem fairly solid going into 2.8. Now they've added in multiple optimizations, but I think the last little thing that I want to feature here is the new Zanny skin that they've added into the game. And I'm going to be honest, I really like this skin. Some people have been hating on the skin. They think it's kind of ugly. I personally am a fan of it, and I really like the character of Zanny. The one thing that I think is really weird that Kuro Games seems to have been doing, maybe it is a business decision, but it seems like they keep adding skins for characters that nobody is really using as much anymore or are low priority. For example, Chang-Li and Zanny. Both of these characters are extremely niche in terms of their utility in the game, and I don't think anybody who doesn't already have them are going to be pulling for them again in the future. So I do think this is 100% just like trying to push people to want to use those characters more. It's a great skin, but it's a premium skin. I don't know if I'm even gonna end up spending for it, and I have Zanny and I still use her on my Spectro team. But it's funny to see that in contrast with like the Sanwo skin on a 4-star that is fairly used in Universal, great for slotting into your team. That was a free skin that they added into the game previously. And Carlotta and Jinshi's skins are used on characters that were, at the time of the release for those skins, very popular characters and very used characters. Seems like a weird picking and choosing of which characters they want to release these skins more. I think they should actually just be releasing more skins more regularly into the game. But overall, I think it's a great looking skin. Keep adding more skins, please. Like, way more. Not like one. Every little bit. The last little thing that I just want to mention in terms of recapping overall the items that were brought up in the event, of course, there was the weapons for the characters. I don't really want to talk about them. I'm not going to kit building in this one, but with some of the other optimizations. They added new nightmare nests that are going to be for new echo sets that of course are going to be added into the game, new things to farm. But on top of that, they have a collect all. This is something that so many of us were complaining about when it came to the nightmare nests, needing to collect every single one of these individually. Even the Genshin stands were starting to rip on Wuthering Waves like, where's your collect all button? And I'm so stoked when I finally saw that they had added this into the Nightmare Nest. Best quality of life. Thank you very much for adding that. I think there are some issues still in regards to the Tacit Fields and the Nightmare Nests overall in terms of how they interact within the game, in generally speaking. But seeing those quality of life, seeing the collect all, seeing this on the Ascension materials, all great things for the game. You can tell they are really trying to polish the Wuthering Waves experience overall from a visual standpoint, from a player standpoint. They are putting a lot of effort in. So where does this leave 2.8 overall? Do I think this is actually going to help save Wuthering Waves from its content drought? A little, definitely. I'll be honest, for this transition patch, my expectations were in the gutter. I was expecting we were gonna get Chisa, a couple BS events, and then it was gonna be nothing, basically, until 3.0. And let's be real, we actually got a lot more than that. We got a whole new, albeit contained area to explore. Seems like a fairly interesting story and a great way to introduce us to Chisa, who hopefully will continue into 3.0, and this isn't just like a one-off thing with her. That would be extremely disappointing. But then we also have a good variety of events that have been added into there as well that can keep people playing. You have these dailies, you've got these daily login rewards. They clearly want you to come back to the game on a regular basis. So seeing that they've added more into this patch that's going to give you to come back into is a really positive thing. Do I think all the content that has been added into this patch is going to fill the entire like 4-week patch cycle? No. It's not. People are going to still clear this stuff in like a week, maybe even a couple days, doing the majority of the content. They might log in a little bit for a couple of the events for a couple other days, and then they're going to call it a day. But I think there's way more here than in 2.7 in the issue of just basically having the story in 2.7, and I got way more out of it than I was expecting. I don't think this is going to save Wuthering Waves in its current state, but I do think it's going to be enough that are going to keep players happy and dedicated players happy until 3.0. And I think a lot of people are expecting 3.0 to be huge. I think a lot of people are expecting big new region, lots of new exploration, lots of new story to dive into, and more combat. I think they're expecting something big for 3.0, but this is promising, way more than I was expecting to get out of 2.8, and I'm really happy to see it. So like I said in my previous videos, if there was more to do, if there was more to explore, I would welcome it with open arms, and my arms are open. Thank you, Kuro Games, for actually giving me way more to play coming in the next week or so. But let me know what you guys think about this release in the comments down below. Do you think this is enough to hold people over until 3.0? I think it's pretty decent. I don't think it's a 10 out of 10, but I think it's pretty good. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you next time.